No proof anywhere. You want some fucking proof? Gee, some fucking proof!
And there's more proof buried in that graveyard here. And even more proof shipped back east and buried there.
Where's all the bodies of the Creighton men?
Rotting on the Wyoming border.
In episode 6 of 1923, we saw tensions continue to build as the Duttons prepare for an attack against Creighton. But one crucial detail means that the Duttons may be even more at risk than they think, and their guard should be higher than ever. In this video, we are going to break down why Jacob is hiding secrets from the sheriff, looking at 5 key insights into how the sheriff might not be all that we thought. Stick around to see one crucial thing that you probably missed that can change the entire series of events in 1923. Let's jump in, starting with our first takeaway. Number 1, a heated conversation. One of the most important moments of episode 6 was the heated conversation between Jacob and Sheriff McDowell when he comes to the ranch. McDowell says that it looks bad that Jacob didn't talk to the sheriff about the attack that happened and that there was no proof. But Jacob points out his wounds as proof and explains that there are even more bodies buried in the ranch. McDowell is upset that Jacob didn't say anything to them and asks where the bodies of the Creighton men are. To which Jacob says that they are rotting on the Wyoming border, which is an interesting side note if you remember the train station from Yellowstone. Regardless, McDowell is not happy that Jacob kept all of this a secret. But Jacob basically says he did what he needed to do. The sheriff tells Jacob that he will make arrests in the morning, but that the Duttons will have to make statements. This sounds like the sheriff is on the Duttons' side, but in the craziness that is the world of the Duttons, we aren't too sure. And we think this conversation is a sign of something deeper. Let us know what you thought about this heated discussion in the comments. With that said, let's turn to our next takeaway. Number 2, the origins of Jacob's secrets. To find out why Jacob is keeping secrets from the sheriff, we have to look a bit farther back. In episode 3, after Jacob is shot by Banner, he says not to involve the sheriff. He said that if the sheriff finds out what happened to him, then the banks, the miners, and the thieves will all come for the ranch.
Get them all.
One drove off. I'll send for the sheriff first thing.
No, Sheriff. I find out what they done to me. They'll come for this place.
Jacob's initial fear was that if the sheriff finds out, then everything becomes public. This makes it sound like he was not necessarily mistrusting of the sheriff, but more worried about the publicity. Even after he recovered, Jacob tells the sheriff that he wouldn't be able to keep away the banks if they figured out his condition. But the sheriff argues that because Jacob is still alive, he didn't have to worry about it and shouldn't have kept the secret. Still, we think there is more to why Jacob is hiding secrets from McDowell. At the end of their conversation, the sheriff says, quote, "I know what you're up to, and I won't allow it." So the sheriff doesn't sound ready to support Jacob's plan, which alone means Jacob can't rely on him. And we think he knows that, leading us to our next takeaway. Number 3, Jacob doesn't trust McDowell. Jacob is not one to trust people, with so many people out to get the Duttons and their land. So there is always the possibility that he is hiding secrets from the sheriff just because a lack of trust is just in his nature. But does he actually have a deeper reason to not trust the sheriff? We think so. In episode 6, before the altercation with Jacob on the ranch, the sheriff was helping Kara find livestock officers. The two were struggling to find good candidates, as they were all disrespectful or unqualified. However, they finally met a law officer from Chicago named Clyde. The man seemed highly qualified and was respectful to Kara, unlike the other candidates. At the end of the interview, Kara was prepared to tell the man that they will let him know. But the sheriff disregarded Kara and immediately tossed him a badge.
I don't know what hell is, but it ain't worse than Chicago. Now I try to limit the time my feet spend on concrete.
Well, thank you for your interest. We'll discuss.
Sign there you received it. It pays $220 a month.
Better than Chicago.
A little more risk here.
It was a little surprising that the sheriff jumped to hire the man without any discussion, talking over Kara to accept him. If you notice, Kara looked a little suspicious, staring the man down as he signed the papers. This is important because we even get a bit of foreshadowing when Kara tells the previous candidate, quote, "I can look in a man's eye and tell if he can be trusted." Maybe she saw something that we didn't. Another notable part of the interview is when Jack points out that he has seen the man before at the Civic Center, and the man simply says that he doesn't miss a meeting. Altogether, it is odd that the sheriff made this decision without consulting Kara at all. Maybe this is because McDowell felt good reason to trust him. But there is another reason that the sheriff might have hired him so quickly, bringing us to our most shocking takeaway. Number 4, a huge threat to the Duttons. When Clyde came in for the interview, he was quickly accepted for his enthusiasm. Before Clyde came in, they had only found 2 candidates all morning. McDowell says himself that it is a dangerous job that doesn't pay well. This is what makes Clyde interesting. Clyde came in so eager for the job that it even surprised Kara and McDowell. He was willing to take the low pay and had strong answers to each question. Such a willing candidate seems a little too good to be true, and it appears that he might be. To prove it, we have to go all the way back to episode 4, before Banner allies with Whitfield. After an altercation with the Duttons, we see Banner and 2 men from his crew return to his cabin up in the hills. One of these men is Clyde from the interview. Banner discusses building an army against the Duttons. We can see Clyde talking with Banner, debating what to do next, saying, quote, "There's only 3 of us left." He even feeds into Banner's plan, saying that gold and silver run the state. We see Clyde again, riding with Banner the night that they steal the cattle. Clyde's lines tell us that he is more than just someone Banner knows, but he is very much on Banner's side. Knowing this, we can see that things are about to get messy. The only question is how long it will take before things do. Since Clyde has officially been hired as a livestock officer, he can have a huge impact on what happens next. He will know information about what the Duttons are planning against Banner. He will be able to sabotage their plans before they happen, and he could even attack from the inside. Kara already looked a little suspicious of the man during the interview, and we now know she had every right to be. So we have faith that Kara or Jacob can probably figure him out as a fraud. However, we hope it isn't too late by the time that they do. Still, we think that Clyde's presence will have a big impact on the range war one way or another. This turn of events brings us to our 5th and final takeaway. Number 5, can the sheriff be trusted? It is possible that the sheriff just didn't know that Banner and Clyde are friends, but we can't be sure that the sheriff isn't on Banner's side. Because actually, it wouldn't be too surprising if the sheriff was secretly against the Duttons. After all, there is a lot of power on that side. Between Banner, Whitfield, the Banks, and the rest of the Grazers who all want to see the Duttons fall, it wouldn't be a shock if the sheriff was bought off. At this point, Banner has built up quite a strategic army against the Duttons, so McDowell may be a part of it. With so many people wanting to take the land, the Duttons really can't trust anyone, even the sheriff himself. Ultimately, things don't look too great stacked up against the Duttons, but we know that we should never count them out. So, we'll have to see what happens next. Episode 7 of 1923 comes out on Sunday, February 19th, and we'll be here to break it down when it does. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think the sheriff can be trusted? Do you think that Kara and Jacob will discover the fraud livestock officer? Tell us in the comments. And make sure you subscribe so we can bring you all the breakdowns and analysis from the hottest shows and movies right now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.